I'm Nikki.
And I'm Jess.
She's the traumatized.
And she's the abandoned. And welcome to our podcast.
Where we talk about true crime, spooky things, and everything in between.
And today we're going to be talking about urban legends and cryptids.
Woo! You did it.
I practiced that and I instantly blanked as soon as I went to go say my thing. Anyway, how are you doing?
No comment.
I feel like we just made like at least 10 bloopers starting this podcast today. So
and I mean, I feel like it's taken us 2 hours to even start the podcast.
Maybe. It's been a fun one. How are you doing? How's your new house? New setup, new you?
Oh yeah, no. I don't have like background stuff yet, but yeah, we're here. And there's boxes everywhere still. But update on the couch, it's coming Monday.
That's so exciting.
It's coming a month before it said it was coming, so.
That's so exciting.
The unfortunate part is my husband didn't pay for stairs, so they're going to drop it all off at the downstairs door for us to carry upstairs.
Like piece by piece.
Yeah, probably.
That's still a lot of couch.
Yeah. I'm not happy about it, but.
I mean, meanwhile, we got like a recliner sofa and I paid the extra and we're not up any stairs. I just didn't want to carry it. Plus, I didn't want to damage it while they were bringing it in because if they damage it, then they have to pay for it. And I'm like, I got to meet you guys. That was really fun.
Oh, yeah. That's why our podcast didn't put up an episode for 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. So there's a big gap there. But it's because we went and visited them in Kentucky while they were moving. It was a lot of fun.
And they're going to visit again in September, so hopefully we'll be more prepared for that.
We're going to be more prepared. And like I was telling you while we were down there, like I want to do stuff for the podcast. Like we should have like we should plan like to actually do a podcast like sitting side by side. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
And TikToks and stuff like that. But we were only down there for like 4 days,
and like 3 of them were moving stuff and cleaning stuff and
drinking.
Drinking.
Literally, it was moving, drinking, and watching Stranger Things, which we're all caught up on.
Yeah,
but that's it for us. Well, like I said, it's been 3 weeks. I was super sick, so we decided what it was. I had a very bad allergic reaction to thyme.
Oh, you didn't tell me this.
Yeah, so remember how I told you after dinner, my roof of my mouth got super bumpy and like swollen?
Yeah.
And so I took Benadryl and I was like, that's weird. Well, the next day it like had gotten worse. Allergic reaction ended up causing deep ulcerations in my mouth. So like imagine like a normal ulcer in your mouth. These were like deeply rooted, which then got infected.
Wow.
That's what was wrong with me. Anyway, do you want to know today's fun fact of the day?
I do. What is it?
You can't hum if you hold your nose. And I did try that one. I read it and you can't. You can hum like one line, but that's it. It's like one note.
Well, yeah, because you're cutting off your airways.
I didn't know. Anyways. What's your topic today? I'm really excited about it.
Okay, so for obviously I am doing the urban legend of our topics today. So I chose to do an urban legend from China, Beijing, China to be exact. So the legend is of the last bus of Fragrant Hills.
Okay, I've never heard of this.
There are some words in here, but I looked up the pronunciations, so hopefully I say them correctly. If I don't, apologies.
I hope they're words, otherwise it's gonna be a really short one.
As in there's Chinese words.
Oh, I know what you meant. Anyways.
Right, so this legend is about a bus and the events of one fateful night, and some even say it was based on a true story.
I have a bus in my story too. Fucking how we do this, I will never know. Okay, keep going.
That's weird. Okay.
Every time.
The story is said to have taken place November 14th, 1995. And
Okay.
there are a lot of different tellings of this story. I tried to get as much of them as I could.
Mm-hmm.
So, where the discrepancies are between the stories, I'll explain as I go.
Okay.
So, the legend goes as follows: a young man in Beijing is aboard the last bus of the night headed to Xiangshan, or translated into Fragrant Hills.
Okay.
The bus was said to be the midnight bus, bus 375, and this is kind of one of the things that fluctuates the number of the bus. In one story it was like 305, in one of them it was like 312.
Okay.
But we're gonna go with 375 for this one, and this bus travels down Route 375 according to the stories.
Okay.
So a kind of variation to the beginning of the story is sometimes it is told that the man is actually waiting at the bus stop and then gets on the bus,
Mm-hmm.
along with an old lady, which we'll get into later.
Okay.
Some of them starts he's on the bus, some he's waiting to get on the bus. So on board this bus was the driver, obviously, and a female conductor, which is the person whose job it is to collect fares and sell tickets. They're the ones that like takes the money, what have you.
Okay.
Because I didn't understand that when I read that. I was like, why do you need a driver and a conductor?
Right.
But the driver drives the bus, the conductor collects the tickets. And
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, that makes sense if you've ever ridden the trains up in New York, Connecticut area, Jersey. They do. Like the MTA, the train, like there is a driver, and then there's somebody who is the conductor comes around and like we buy tickets before we get on the train, but he stamps them or he like punches them.
Right.
And if you don't buy them before, you have to pay like extra amount or something. But yeah, that makes sense.
There were also 3 other passengers on the bus besides the young man. So there was a young couple and an old lady, like I said before.
Okay.
In some of the other versions of the story, the old lady is actually an old man. So it really differs, but kind of all the same. So there's a young couple, an old lady,
right,
and a young man.
Gotcha. Okay.
The young couple, all of them are basically sitting towards the front of the bus. So the young couple is sitting behind the driver towards the front. And then the old lady and young man are on the other side towards the doors, and the conductor towards the front of the bus.
Okay.
The drive went through a quiet and remote area, and there was really no other vehicles on the road. And after a while, the driver spotted 2 men trying to flag down the bus on the side of the road, even though they weren't at a bus stop. So they were just kind of like waving like a taxi or whatever. The driver stopped to pick them up. In a different version, though, it is said that the conductor is the one that convinced the driver to stop because they're like, oh, she was like, this is the last bus on this route for the night. So just pull over and pick them up.
Right. Okay.
Right. When the doors were open, 3 men got on, though. 2 men flagged it down. But when the doors opened, 3 men got on. 2 of the men were actually supporting the third in between them. So, like, he couldn't really walk on his own.
Yeah.
The man in the middle looked disheveled, and his head was bowed, so no one could really see his face. So, like, imagine, like, he's just kind of, like...
I mean, imagine, like, somebody who
like,
had too many drinks. Yeah, who was, like, not able to walk on themselves. Got it.
Yep. All 3 were dressed in traditional Chinese robes from the Qing dynasty, which spanned the years of 1644 to 1911/1912, and their faces were deathly pale.
Okay.
Also, the Qing dynasty was after the Ming dynasty, in case anybody wanted to know.
Good to know.
The other passengers on the bus were kind of uneasy about these 3 strangers. But the conductor tried to calm everybody by saying, oh, maybe they're actors and they didn't change after work and they went have a few drinks and, you know, you just yeah.
They sound
just
like me. Like, literally anything sketchy happens, I'm like, it's fine.
It's fine. You know, it'll be okay.
It's all good.
The old woman, though, kept staring at them. Like, she kept, like, looking back and like, looking at them, like, very uneasy about them.
Okay.
And these three strangers sat themselves at the back of the bus. So, like, everybody else is, like, towards the front of the bus, and they sat at the very back of the bus.
That is where the cool kids sit, so I
that
get it.
is, so, yeah.
Checks out.
There was kind of like an eerie silence, and none of the passengers really said a word once the strangers came on. It was just kind of like bad vibes, you know?
Yep.
After 3 or 4 stops, the young couple got off the bus. The bus driver and they kept driving for a little bit. The bus driver and the female conductor started chatting and laughing and, you know, just trying to pass the time as they drive on. When the old lady suddenly jumped to her feet and began shouting and making a huge fuss. She was telling everybody that the young man had stolen her wallet. And in some versions it says that that he stole her purse.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Obviously, the young man, caught off guard, stood up and started arguing with her. Like, I didn't take your things. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. What? Okay.
But the old woman, like, grabs him by the collar. Like, think of an old woman, like, scolding her grandkids or something. She, like, literally grabbed him by the collar and dragged him and demanded the driver to let them off at the next stop so she could bring him to the police station.
Okay.
The young man was pretty much like speechless. Like, he was like, what is happening right now? In a different version of the story, though, it is said that the altercation between the two escalated so quickly that the driver just forced them off the bus, like kicked them off.
Okay.
So whichever one. So the bus stopped and the old lady dragged the young man off and they watched the bus drive off into the night. The young man was so frustrated and angry. For one, he did not steal this old woman's purse or wallet. Secondly, there was no police station nearby. And lastly, that was the last bus of the evening. So he was now stuck.
Completely stranded.
And he didn't get to where he needed to go.
No.
When he confronted the old lady, she replied by saying, "I saved your life. Those people were ghosts." Talking about the strangers in the back of the bus.
Okay.
The old lady said that when she was looking at them, a breeze happened to flow and lift their robes enough for her to see that they didn't have any legs. Therefore, they were ghosts. The young man, of course, was like startled. And shocked and thanked the old lady. Here's my thoughts. Right?
Okay, please.
I get that if they're ghosts, they're ghosts. What gave you that inclination to get off the bus?
Right. Why would you think your life was in danger? I mean, some people are super like in tune with that.
Super in tune or like super superstitious about it, I think.
So like ghosts immediately equal bad, which is not the case. But
yeah. So anyway, yeah. The old lady called the police. And she told them about the story.
Oh, no.
So the police were hesitant to take any complaint from her. They told the young man that was with her maybe she was hallucinating, seeing things, or, you know, other mental issues, or also maybe just her old age.
Right.
Here's where the story gets even more interesting.
Oh, okay.
Are you buckled up?
I'm buckled in.
Okay. The next day, the bus failed to report to the station. The depot manager searched for the bus in the depot and neighboring depots, thinking, oh, maybe they were just tired, they got the wrong place, and they parked in the wrong spot.
Mm-hmm.
But it had vanished, along with the driver and the conductor.
Oh, wow.
So the manager searched also the entire route of the bus. So, like, the route that the bus was supposed to take.
In case it, like, wrecked.
Yeah, and found no sign of the bus.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. So the manager then filed a police report of the missing bus. The police started their investigation and also searched the city for the bus, finding nothing. They quickly discovered that there had been a call-in the night before from this old lady and young man.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they tracked them down and questioned them, but again, decided that they were mentally ill and really didn't take them seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But both of them were interviewed by the news stations. 2 days later, the police find the missing bus. It was submerged in the Mayan. I hope I'm saying that right because the pronunciation was the same as the spelling. So the Mayan reservoir, about 100 kilometers from the Fragrant Hills, where it was supposed to be headed. Inside the bus, they discovered 3 badly decomposed bodies: the bus driver, the conductor, and an unidentified man.
I'm so confused. Who is the man? Well, he's unidentified. We don't know. But okay. All right, keep going.
In a different version of the story, it was told that there were 5 bodies found: the bus driver, the conductor, and then the 3 strangers.
Mm-hmm.
The odd thing about this story is that the bodies were at different decomposition stages. So, like, the 2, the bus driver and the conductor were at a normal 2-day condition that they would have been.
Right.
But the other 3 bodies seem so much more decomposed than that.
Why would there be... Oh, that hurts my brain. Okay. Interesting.
So there's a lot of mysteries. That's basically the gist of the story.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of mysteries surrounding the bus itself. Or like how it happened.
Okay.
So the first thing is it was said that there was not enough gas to get to where the bus ended up.
Right.
It was also said that when the police opened the gas tank, they did not find gas inside. They found blood.
Inside the gas tank?
Mm-hmm.
What the actual fuck? Okay.
Also, the bus was only found 2 days after it went missing. So why were the bodies so badly decomposed?
Right.
Because, like, in the first telling of the story where there's the 3 bodies, all 3 bodies were extremely decomposed.
Right. And, like, that's when you said extremely decomposed. I'm like, they've only been missing for 2 days. I mean, water, I think, makes them decompose. They, like, bloat, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it shouldn't be extremely. It's only been 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. The blood in the gas tank freaks me out.
Right.
That freaks me out, yeah.
And lastly, the police did a strict inspection of all the security camera tapes because this was 1995. There was security cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so security cameras on each entrance of the reservoir.
Mm-hmm.
But the bus wasn't seen in any of them. So how did it get into the reservoir without...
What the actual hell?
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
So
that's like blood ritual shit.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So to this day, it remains an unsolved mystery.
That's crazy, and I've never heard of that. That's so cool. Not cool for them. Very cool story.
It was quite interesting.
Yeah, that's really cool. I liked it. Very creepy. Very creepy. And like I said, sometimes like you just get bad vibes. And there's I listen to a couple other podcasts, and that's something that they've like said, like reliving like true crime or like paranormal stuff. You start to learn, like, if you feel icky, get out.
Get out. Yeah.
Like there's a reason there's like a deeply rooted like flight or fight sense that we get, and depending on like how like ingrained it is from your future, if you believe in future self or past selves, if you believe in like that kind of stuff, like you learn creepy things, you learn like triggers and stuff like that. So like if you feel icky, get out about it. That was a really cool story.
Thank you.
I liked it. Yeah, mine also has like a bus story in it, which is crazy.
Weird.
It's so weird. We're weirdly connected. So, are you ready to hear about the Wendigo?
I am.
Let
me buckle in.
Buckle up. Yeah, no, this one's so like I want to do kind of like the cryptids. I love cryptids. I love them. I love the idea of them. There's so many of them. You got like Mothman, obviously like Sasquatch, Bigfoot. Like there's also skinwalkers. Like when you do Black-Eyed Children, I kind of want to do skinwalkers. And what's crazy is actually the Wendigo gets mistaken for skinwalkers or Sasquatch.
Interesting.
So they actually like they kind of look similar.
Was this like a one thing, or is it like multiple? Okay.
So
like a species.
It's like a species. Yeah, for sure. There's different like we're just gonna dive right in.
Let's do it.
We're gonna dive right in. Okay, so the big question is, what the heck is Wendigo? Have you ever heard of one? I'm gonna do my best to quickly summarize this. Okay, so as the most like famous, there's so many different variations of the story. So as the most famous story goes, the Wendigo was once a lost hunter. And during a brutally cold winter, the man's intense hunger drove him to cannibalism. After feasting on another human's flesh, he was transformed into a crazed man-beast that roamed the forest in search of more people to eat. So, yeah. So that's like the most
summarized version.
Yeah. It breaks down so much more detail, which we're going to do kind of now. So the original story of Wendigo comes from the Algonquin Native American folklore. Like the exact details kind of depend on who you ask. There are 3 or 4 big ones. So it is either a physical being, hideous monster that stalks the northern woods, desperate to sate its insatiable hunger, which is kind of like the original one, or I can never say this fucking word. I don't know why I put it in here. Malevolent. A malevolent spirit that takes control of men's or women's bodies, cursing them with the incurable need to consume human flesh. It is said that this curse would take over someone who is extremely selfish or greedy, and this would lead them into acts of cannibalism. So the worst one describe him as a giant humanoid with a heart of ice. A foul stench or sudden unreasonable chill might precede its approach. So like if you get like a sudden crazy chill, it is known that he's close. Also, this is he. I guess it could be a she. I don't know why they always do that. Why do you gotta genderify everything? Come on, guys. Do better. So the Algonquin indigenous tribes were, like I said, based mostly around Canada, the northeast U.S. coast, and the Great Lakes region. Different stories and legends have varying small details, but the one thing that is the same is that the Wendigo has an all-consuming hunger that drives it to eat people. So that is the Wendigo. It eats people. There are some stories that I was listening to that they say like the more people it eats, the hungrier it gets. What's literally just like it fuels it. Like I said, it has been people who have seen it have either mistaken it for like a skinwalker or even Sasquatch. Some pictures have it has horns like a deer. I think we get like more into like what it actually looks like later. But in my research, I found that there are actually certain medical conditions named after mythological creatures. Did you know this?
No,
I did not. So I'm going to give you a couple.
What I mean, okay.
So the medical condition of a genetic chimerism is when an organism has more than one set of DNA. is named after the Chimera, who was a fire-breathing monster with a lion's head, a goat's body, and a snake's tail. Phobia, which obviously everyone has like phobias, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many other. Actually comes from the name Phobos. Phobos, which is a Greek personification of fear. Narcissist, which I am very familiar with, is actually derived from Narcissus, who in mythology was a beautiful young person who loved no one until he looked down and saw his own reflection in the water and fell in love with himself. That's where Narcissus comes from. I didn't know that. Anyways, there's so many of those, but the Wendigo psychosis is the condition where people have an intense craving for human flesh. So intense that they usually become a cannibal. So when you have people who are becoming cannibals, like murderers and stuff like that, they usually will say, oh, well, it's just the Wendigo psychosis. So I could definitely do like a whole episode just on these like medical conditions that are named after. Like I had no idea, but
That's insane.
Right?
I didn't know that.
Moving on.
Yes, please.
So the different versions of Wendigo, the Wendigo legend, say different things about his speed and agility, which I find really interesting. Some claim he is unusually fast and can endure walking for long periods of time, even in like harsh winter conditions, because you're talking about like the northeast area of North America, not United States,
right?
Like, into Canada too.
Mm-hmm.
But others say he walks in more of like a haggard manner, as if he's literally falling apart. Mm. But speed necessarily wouldn't be a skill for a monster of this nature. Unlike other terrifying carnivores, the Wendigo doesn't rely on pursuing his prey in order to capture and eat it. Instead, one of the creepiest traits is the ability to mimic human voices.
I understand why it's with skinwalkers.
Right? He uses this skill to lure people in, draw them away from civilization. And once they're isolated into the deep, dark areas of forest, he will attack them and then feast on them. Again, all the he's. It could be a she. Listen.
Also, like, don't go into the woods. Just don't go.
Yeah. So after I decided to do this, and I was like, I'll just listen to like scary stories about the Wendigo at work. It was a horrible idea. But one of them was like this friend. She was visiting her friend. They were like in the woods. Friend lived in the cabin, so she brought her RV, and so they said goodnight. They were like by the fire, so her friend and husband went into the cabin, and she went to her RV, and she remembers like suddenly feeling extremely scared, like something's wrong. Her dogs, she had like 3 dogs with her, so normally if there was like something outside the camper, they'd be going nuts, right? Like obviously dogs bark. The dogs were laying down like whimpering, scared, not moving, and all of a sudden she heard her friend going like, hey, are you in there?
No.
And so like she was thinking like to herself, she's like, my friend knows I'm in here. There's nowhere else I could be. She was like, I remember feeling so scared. I didn't answer. Like, she was like, I feel like I finally started to like relax around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. And she said the moment I went to lay down, the wind picked back up. She started hearing birds again. Like everything was like dead silent.
Oh, that's so creepy.
So creepy. Yeah. So like, and then she went and she was like, were you by our RV? Like, sorry if I ignored you. And her friend was like, no, we went to bed as soon as you left. And so it was not her friend. And so it was just like, they're creepy. Anyway, yeah, that's what I listened to all week. It was like scary stories. So according to the legends, a native author and I think it's an ethnographer named Basil Johnston once described the Wendigo as this. This is a quote. Are you ready? Because it's terrifying. The Wendigo was gaunt to the point of emaciation. Its desiccated skin pulled tightly over its bones, with bones pushing out over its skin as complexion its complexion the ash gray of death, and its eyes pushed back deep into its sockets. The Wendigo looked like a gaunt skeleton, recently disinterred. Is that a word? Disinterred? From the grave. What lips it had were tattered and bloody, uncleaned, and suffering from suppurations of the flesh. The Wendigo gave off a strange and eerie odor of decay and decomposition, of death and corruption. According to a historian, Nathan Carlson, it said that the Wendigo has large, sharp claws and massive eyes like an owl. However, some people describe the Wendigo as a skeleton-like figure with ash-tone skin. I mean, here's the thing. I'm not going to be staring at something. I'm not.
Something that looks like a skeleton?
Mhm.
Like, no thank you.
With like decomposing skin hanging off of it? No. No, I'm gone. I'm so gone. No. Mm-mm. So I can understand why there's like a little difference. And this is old. Like these stories, some of these stories are like obviously like pre-United States. Like these stories are like in their culture.
Yeah.
So just they give me such the heebie-jeebies. Anyways, some pop culture references. So a character inspired by the Wendigo appears actually in Marvel comic. The monster is a result of a curse that afflicts those who commit acts of cannibalism. So it first appeared in the Incredible Hulk episode 162 and then again in October 1974 issue. But some other creatures that are based on this legend or named after it appear in various films and television shows. Some television shows for you. I feel like these shows are literally my list to watch. Are you ready?
Okay.
Teen Wolf, Supernatural,
Seen.
Blood Ties.
Never heard of that one.
I haven't either. Charmed.
The original?
Yes.
Love that show.
Grimm.
Never seen that one.
We need to watch Grimm together because I want to watch it. And Hannibal. Obviously Hannibal. The whole premise of Hannibal is he eats people. Wendigo also appeared in the 2020 horror film The Retreat. The 2015 horror survival video game Until Dawn features Wendigos as the main bad guy. Fallout 76. Wendigos are featured as one of the cryptid enemies found in the area of Appalachia, which are mutated from people who consumed human flesh. You see the theme.
Yeah.
Also, interesting enough, I think Mothman's in Fallout 76 too. I want that game. I wanted the game to be so good. Anyways, in the video game Dusk, Wendigos are featured as a strong enemies that remain invisible to the player until they receive damage, which that just sounds terrifying.
Yeah, no thank you. I can barely fight enemies I can see in the game.
You can see multiple versions of these creatures on the cover art for that game. And this might be my next movie night.
Oh god.
In the 2001 film Antlers, the main character's father transforms into a Wendigo, which in the movie is portrayed as a deer-like creature with glowing heart that moves from person to person with a never-ending hunger. Which is more that one kind of falls along more of like the curse.
Right.
And this is where the idea he also plays on the idea that like the more the creature eats, the hungrier it gets. And the hungrier it gets, actually the more weaker it becomes. So it's literally just trying to eat and eat and eat and eat to not get weak. Because if it's hungry, So crazy enough, like I told you that really quick story. There's so many of those. There's so many of those kind of stories of creatures. There's also some stories about people being possessed. And I'm going to tell you one of those.
Possessed by the Wendigo?
And it makes them eat people. Nom nom.
Okay. Interesting.
So, on July 30th, 2008, Tim McLean was returning home to Winnipeg after working at a fair in Edmonton. I probably
Wait,
mispronounced it.
Winnipeg?
Mm-hmm.
That's in the middle of the country. That's like above North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like all across the northern.
Anywhere where it gets cold. He likes the cold.
But he's skeleton. Okay, interesting. Okay. Okay.
I didn't make the rules.
Okay.
He
like,
sat.
Winnipeg. I've been there.
Yeah, he's returning home to Winnipeg. He sat in the rear, one row ahead of the toilet. I don't know why that was in the story, but it seemed...
okay, this
bus.
is where the bus comes in. Okay.
We're at a bus, guys.
We're on a bus.
At 6:55, the bus departed from a stop in Erickson, Manitoba.
Manitoba.
How do you know that?
Manitoba. Because it's above North Dakota. Like, I've gone there many times.
Maybe I should let you read the story. So the bus departed with a new passenger. So the bus departed from a stop in Erickson, Manitoba, with a new passenger, Vince Lee. Vince was described as a tall man in his 40s with a shaved head and sunglasses who originally sat near the front of the bus, but moved to sit next to Tim following a scheduled rest stop. Tim barely acknowledged Vince and then fell asleep against the window pane with his headphones covering his ears. According to witnesses, Tim was sleeping with his headphones on when the man sitting next to him suddenly produced a large knife and began stabbing him in the neck and the chest. After the attack began, the bus driver pulled over to the side of the road. He and all the other passengers fled the vehicle.
No one tried to help?
The driver and two other men made an attempt to rescue Tim, but were chased away by Vince, who slashed at them from behind the locked bus doors. Vince ultimately, this gets gross. If you don't like gross, skip ahead like 5 minutes, just as a trigger warning. It gets gross.
Okay, again, what year was this? Just for my recollection. Did you say 2008?
2008.
Okay.
Vince ultimately decapitated Tim and displayed his severed head to those standing outside the bus like a trophy. He then returned to Tim's body and began severing other parts and started to consume some of Tim's flesh. At 8:30 p.m., the
Is this real?
This is real.
This is real?
This is a real story. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police received a report of a stabbing on a Greyhound bus west of the city. They arrived to find the suspect still on board the bus, being prevented from escaping by another passenger. So they were like locking him in. That was at 8:30. So that was at 8:30 they received the call. By 9, police were in a standoff with the suspect. Why do I say subject? Suspect, and had summoned special negotiators and a heavily armed tactical unit.
I mean, at this point, I don't think negotiating is gonna get you anywhere. Like, dude's out of his mind. Okay.
The suspect alternately paced the length of the bus and continued to defile the corpse. Police officers then observed Vince eating parts of the body. Meanwhile, the stranded passengers were transported from the scene to be interviewed at the Brandon RCMP detachment. The officers reportedly heard Vince saying, "I have to stay on this bus forever."
Why? Wow. Okay.
So, at 1:30 a.m., the suspect attempted to escape the bus by breaking through the window. They quickly arrested Vince. He was shot twice with a laser, handcuffed, and placed back in the back of a police cruiser.
Do you mean taser?
What did I say?
Laser. Laser. We're in a sci-fi movie. We're in Star Wars. Pew pew.
Pew pew pew. 100% meant taser.
Okay.
I'm glad we're laughing now. Parts of the victim's body placed in plastic bags were retrieved from the bus, while his ear, nose, and tongue were found in Lee's pockets.
Poor Tim. Oh my god, this man was just trying to get home.
Nikki. The victim's eyes and part of his heart were never recovered. and are presumed to have been eaten by Lee. What is absolutely crazy to me is that Vince was not found criminally responsible for the murder.
What? How?
And was remanded to a high security mental facility where he was detained until his release in 2015.
No, why? How? What?
Okay, so I actually looked more into this because I was like, what the fuck actually happened? So this is a little history of his stay on the mental treatment facility. In 2011, CBC reported that Vince was responding well to his psychiatric treatment and that his doctor had recommended that he receive more freedoms. In 2012, the National Post reported that Vince had been granted temporary passes that would allow him out of the mental health center for visits to the town of Selkirk, supervised by a nurse and a peace officer. In an interview, Vince spoke out for the first time, saying that he had begun hearing the voice of God in 2004 and he wanted to save people from an alien attack. So, fast forward a little bit, in 2014, CBC reported that on March 6th, Vince would be allowed to have unsupervised visits to Selkirk, starting at 30 minutes and expanding to full day trips.
What was he doing during these day trips?
He was just, hanging around the town.
That's so...
In 2016, it was reported that Vince had legally changed his name to Will Baker and was seeking to leave the group home to live independently, and he won the right to live alone on February 26th of 2016.
How? Well, I guess, okay, so like...
Some people just think he had a mental break, but like looking into his past, he had no warning signs. There was no history of mental illness.
No family history of mental illness?
No. So that's why I actually found this story on a Wendigo site because they were like, they feel like it was he was very money driven. It was known to be extremely greedy. And so people think that he was cursed.
I'm just... I'm trying to get past the fact that he literally murdered someone
and consumed them.
What is it? Dismembered,
decapitated,
all of the things, and like no jail time, no punishment whatsoever.
They said that he was mentally unstable.
Ugh,
so
God,
that
okay.
That concludes my story.
That's it.
Of the Wendigo.
No, what? What?
That's it. The last line of my thing. Some people think he had a mental break, but others allege that this murder and many others have been the curse of the cryptid Wendigo. The curse of overwhelming hunger for human flesh that drives people insane.
And then, like, once they do it, it just disappears? Or,
it depends. That depends. I mean, there's so many different stories. Like I said, the one is, like, it continuously, it's an insatiable need to eat people.
Mm-hmm.
The more cryptid to me, because one's a curse and one's like, for me, is like more like embodiment of a cryptid. Like the curse to me would be like, yeah, like you really want to eat, like why did he get on the bus? Why did he kill him? Why him? Why did he decide then to eat him? It makes no sense. And some people are like, well, he was cursed, he had to.
Yeah, that's so strange. Like, yeah, because, like, if he was, let's say, if he was cursed and he had this uncontrollable urge to eat somebody, wouldn't he just go to, like, the first person he sees and eat that person rather than buying a bus ticket, going on a bus? It seems kind of premeditated in a way.
But maybe he was just trying to get home. He got on the bus, sat in the front, turned around, and one at the rest stops, he spotted Tim, and Tim looks really delicious.
I mean, you would know. You have a Tim.
I know. He does look really delicious.
I'm sorry, that's not a joke.
I
Someone
mean,
died.
we need to laugh because it's not funny. But it's so, like, because I think that's why I thought this was going to be super easy for me to research. It wasn't, because there's so many different facets of it. Like, there's the one that's like more of a curse that like drive people to eat each other, and then there's the other that's an actual monster that people think is a skinwalker or a Sasquatch. Like, they
Right.
confuse the two because it's a more of a creature. Or do the people who become cursed, if they don't get treatment for it, do they become the creatures?
Right. Do they evolve? Dude, that's insane.
Right?
Oh my god.
Num,
I don't know
num.
if we're ever going to Canada. Let's never plan a trip to Canadian
Well,
woods.
what's crazy is that, like, it says the Great Lakes region and northeastern, like where I am. I think it's technically supposed to be more like
that?
more northeastern, because I don't know, New York's like somewhere in the middle. Like, people
So
don't
when
really...
we plan our camping trip, it's not by you guys.
No, I don't think Pennsylvania is included in that, so I think we're good.
Okay.
But yeah, guys, that was my story. Cheerful, isn't it? It's crazy. I was like, you went on like your entire story is about a bus, and I was like, I have a bus
My
story
story
too.
ends with my bus story. Okay, no, because there was death in my bus story too. I would say my bus story is harmless, ghosts, but no, it was not harmless.
No, people were decomposed. I don't think that's harmless. Yeah, creepy, icky. Guys, that's it for this episode. If you enjoyed this podcast, do not forget to follow, leave a review or a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe, pretty please, like we were saying earlier. It's so happy when we get a new subscriber. It's like, yay! People like us.
Also, like, let us know some ideas. Usually our link tree is on every social media, and in there is our email. You can email us ideas.
Yes.
You can have a child screaming in the background saying mama. Okay. So you can comment on YouTube any ideas you guys want us to cover, and yeah, so
you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok with our username at TTATA Podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Like we said, next week we're going to be covering conspiracy theories, and Nikki said hers is a doozy. So
bring your buckles to
and maybe some wine. I might be drinking next week. And with that, we're going to leave you with this inspirational quote.
Again, I am picking a quote from a book I am currently reading, because lately there's just been so many good quotes coming from my books. So it is, needing help isn't weakness. Weakness is not helping someone who needs it. And that is from the book Recruitment by K.A. Riley.
Oh, that was really good. I like that a lot. But seriously, we love you guys. Love to hear from you. And yeah, definitely email us. You guys, if you have any like listener stories, I kind of want to get that started. Our LinkedIn tree has our email, and that'd be really cool to hear from you guys. So yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye.